now let's jump into a few issues. As I mentioned, August 1st was Emancipation Day, and that was this past Saturday. On Friday, the Jamaica Supreme Court, so I'll call this one a dreadful decision. Play on words here. In the
Good job, Dub.
yeah, there you go. In the U.S. history, they had the Dred Scott case, which was a very important case in the U.S. history. Here we have the Dreadlock case. Hey, I have all kinds of these puns. Anyway,
I'm so through.
so it's so all right. So the issue here is in 2018, a young girl, she was 5 years old at the time, going to Kensington Primary School outside of Kingston, was told that in order to attend the school, she had to cut her dreadlocks. Right? So this family, they're not Rastas, but they wear dreadlocks. The mother and the father and the little girl, they wear locks. And so they decided to take it to court. And so that was 2 years ago. And they took it to court. And in the meantime, the court basically said, file an injunction that says she is allowed to go to the school in the meantime until a decision is made. So the decision came down Friday, the day before Emancipation Day, as of all days. So so there are a whole bunch of things about this that don't make sense. But let me read a line from the ruling, and we'll get to just talking about Jamaican classism and systemic racism and colonialism, which is what this reeks on. So all right. So here's what the judge wrote. The school, through its then principal, indicated that her locks are prohibited as there is a possibility that the hairstyle would lead to a lice or junja/mold infestation. The objective of creating a more controlled hygienic environment is important to the proper order and effective learning at the school and does not prevent the claimant from enjoying religious freedom and the expression of that religious choice and cultural ethnicity to which her parents subscribe in their household. So, people right now, like dreadlocks and Rasta is like to many people, it's a fad, it's a trend, right? People don't really understand, historically, the fight that Rastas have gotten in Jamaica, where this, where that started in the Western world.
Or the origins of Black spirit.
Yeah, and so you have, and that stereotype, and the fact that and here's what makes, many things don't make sense, but the school says if they were Rastafarian, then they could go to the school. So the hygiene and the lice and junja is not an issue if they're Rastas, but because they are not Rastas, then the problem is the hygiene. So there's this whole thing, going from back when I was living in Jamaica about, Rasta, all dirty Rasta, and they're unclean and what have you. And so what we see is the problem with this came way before this went to court. The problem is the mindset, that uptown mindset within, the bigger heads in Jamaica, the people who kind of run the place in big business and big government. They come from a certain mentality that kind of look down on, the rest of society. So, I tell people all the time, Jamaica is over 90% Black, so there's not like a big racism problem, but there's a huge classism problem. So the fact that this law even existed to begin with is just a demonstration of the persistent classism that has existed within Jamaica for a long time. So I have a lot more to say on it, but let me invite you into the conversation. All right, people, talk.
So I made sure.
I'm a ballad, I'm a Rasta still.
Lord, I made sure I wrote down my notes because I didn't want to forget anything either, because I have a lot to say on this. But as you said, this particular situation was started back in 2018 when the little girl was 5. She is now 7, first and foremost. You cannot be denied entry into a school based off of your religion. So as you mentioned, they did not choose to wear locks because they practice Rastafarianism. Excuse me. It's the style they choose to wear. And so the wording that the government used was she was expressing herself. The school also used that term as well, that they did not agree with or cannot allow her to express herself that way for whatever reason. They brought up lice and, like you said, possible mold or what have you. But a lot of people are saying, don't take it out on the government, because the government is just doing their job. If you're going to be mad at somebody, be mad at the principal, because this is the rule that she has put into place for her particular school. Now, for people who don't know the full 100 of what's going on, this particular primary school is a sought after school. They have awesome past results and testing, and it's like the Princeton of, or, you know, the Princeton of primary schools in Portmore, Jamaica, which is near Kingston, the capital, which people know. So these parents wanted the best for their daughter. They wanted her to go to the best schools, and people even took it as far, and once again, here we go with social media blowing things out of proportion, that this little girl is going to be traumatized for the rest of her life, and her parents need to instill in her that Black is beautiful and she should accept herself and her hair or what have you. First of all, nothing was said to the child directly. They did it professionally and dealt with her parents. So if you think she's gonna have self-esteem issues because of this, I believe it all starts at home. As long as her mom, who embraces what they believe, and her father embraces what they believe, as long as they nurture that in her, and she takes from this that, you know what, I'm gonna embrace it, I'm never gonna cut my hair, this is me, take it or leave it, I can go to a different school. Also, somebody also added the fact that the father is in the entertainment business. He's a producer. They have a GoFundMe account going for 20 million Jamaican dollars, which is 125 US dollars. So now they're trying to spin it as if they could have just went to the school board and the principal and left the government out of it, but they're making a big deal about it to maybe get some attention for this producer. He also went as far as to say he wanted more entertainers to speak on this and was upset that more entertainers didn't speak on this. But of all people, Bone to Killer made posts about it, Spice made posts about it. So the biggest dancehall artists are backing you up. So why are you making it an issue all over again? So what's really going on? So once again, people are saying, why didn't you go through the chain of command? Why didn't you sit down with the principal? If you got an answer you didn't want, go to the school board, go to the Ministry of Education. Why go?
I'm sure they did all that.
Court?
I'm sure they didn't just up and go to court from jump.
Apparently, allegedly, they didn't. Allegedly, they didn't, and found a lawyer that was willing to take this case and thought it was going to be this big hoopla. But I digress.
I don't buy it, but hey, but I have a lot more to say.
Yes.
Text. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I got a lot to say, but I'm gonna keep it short on this one too. First of all, I would implore the people that made the decision to actually take some time out to research the history of locks and where it originated. Basically, Egypt was the birthplace of civilization and the center of the Pangea. Yeah, going back, it all started. It's all because of slavery. No.
Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. But even going back to Egypt, they have found mummies that have had locks wrapped around their whole body to their feet. And basically, during that time when the Egyptians came into power, they started growing their locks. And the longer your locks were, that basically symbolized, how long you've been in power. The longer it is, as time goes by, the longer you've been in power. Now, even in India, even in India, the deity Shiva was depicted with locks. Have y'all seen that picture? I wish I could share my screen, but I can't right now. And that takes me to Samson. Okay, y'all know the story of Samson, right?
Yeah,
Of
man.
course, the
Yeah, man.
power-
So Samson came from an area called Nazarene, okay, which would make him a Nazarite, okay.
Right.
And as you know, it's a story is cold. He basically had long hair, like ropes. They were dark, woolly.
Yes,
and
Rasta.
they held what? They held
Yeah.
it held his power, right? Now, one of the laws of the Nazarite people was that they couldn't cut their hair. So that would imply that the people as a whole had locks. Now, who's the most famous Nazarite you can think of? If you don't know, you need him in your life.
Jesus.
Exactly.
So Jesus was a Rasta? All right, go on. Keep
Hey.
going. Might be.
Hey,
He's not that white man they portray him to be.
hey, I do believe he had locks.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
And it got me to thinking, okay, if there's a caveman theory out there, they didn't have combs. They didn't have perms.
Exactly. If you can't
Okay,
comb your
they
hair,
didn't have
it's not
wigs.
gonna grow.
So if you
Yep.
didn't comb your hair, guess what happens?
That's how your hair grows.
It
Nothing.
naturally locks.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like I said, I can go on and on about that, but like I said, I implore those individuals, do your research. Okay, it's one of the most natural hairstyles there, and as it goes for Jamaicans, anywhere you go in the world, and you see somebody with locks, you automatically associate them with Jamaica and Rastas,
Right.
whether they practice the religion or not. Take advantage of it. Okay, use it as a positive. I know there's negative connotations associated with it, but use that. To me, it's a positive, and make it more positive. Don't, like Chris said about the classism. Don't make it more negative than it is. Take the positives and groom it, grow it. Make it something bigger than what y'all are depicting it to be right now.
Yeah. So I saw a few people saying the same government that basically used Bob Marley's image, use all sorts of Rasta in tourist board commercials to market and sell Jamaica, because they know that is one of the most easily identified characteristics of Jamaica, even though Jamaica is like 2% Rasta and most people don't have dreadlocks, but they know that to the outside world it is a great marketing. So it's good for us from marketing Jamaica, but we don't keep them dirty Rasta out of our school. I mean, that's the mindset where that comes from. To touch on something that Jolene said, why are they fighting us in court? I have an answer for you. So here's what her mother, I need to show a picture of the family here now, look a bit.
Beautiful family, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not like they're not well kept. That's another thing.
They some of them Rastas. All right. So, all right. Let me show the picture. Then I'll. All right. So here's the picture. Here's the producer.
Melanin just dripping.
I look at this beautiful girl. This
Beautiful.
is the girl that the school said you cut off your hair if you want to come to our school. And actually, there's a follow-up on that. Basically, since the story bus and all over the world, the head of the board of directors for the school said, okay, she can come.
Yes.
Of course. Because they don't want like negative attention.
All that heat.
So they said they don't know if they're going to do it. But here's what the mother said. She's like, after 2 years of fighting, nothing has changed. This is no longer about my child and our family. We're fighting for all dreadlock Jamaicans. We're fighting for change. We're fighting years of colonialism, and we will not give up. So it's bigger than this one girl, and it is not just Jamaica, right? We had the issue here in Houston with Officer Lioness's cousin, where they told him you can't come to the school with your dreadlocks. And that got all sorts of attention. Celebrities got behind it. Dwayne Wade and Gabby Union and all sorts of where he was at the Grammy Awards or the Oscar
Grammys,
Awards. Yeah, he was at the Grammy Awards. So there's an actual bill before Congress called the Crown Act. I forgot exactly what the acronym stands for, but is black people are getting all kinds of fights for wearing their hair the natural way, the way it naturally grows, afros and dreadlocks and all that. Getting all kinds of fights about it. So it's not about this one girl, this one 5-year-old girl, that they said, you know what, you have to cut off her hair if you want her to come to this high achieving school. It's straight nonsense. So that actually, when I think about it, it brings me back to when I was in Trinidad last year, doing
what?
Yeah, it's doing training or resident training on the program.
Proud of it.
So I was reading the newspaper one day, and I came across this article, which I never really thought of it this way, but it was talking about not Jamaica, it's throughout the Caribbean. How the Caribbean education system is set up based on colonialism. It's set up to create to keep the wealthy and to keep the poor in their place. And so what that comes down to is, and I don't know if this has changed, but when I was in Jamaica, I think they've definitely changed it since. That's what we call the common entrance exam, where when you take the common entrance exam, and you take it like when you're 10 years old, and first of all, if you pass the common entrance, for one, it's in the newspaper. So, and if you don't,
the big deal.
And if your name is not in the newspaper, then everybody know you didn't pass.
You'll get beaten.
And based on that test, if you pass, you get to go to certain schools. If you don't pass, you go to other schools. So think about
trade schools.
We're basically setting up along that path. And again, it's from you're like 10 years old. And so you kind of and obviously when you go to that certain high school, then there's certain colleges not going to accept you if you don't come from certain high schools. So just kind of, from your 10 years old, steering you along a certain path already. And they're like, that's from a colonial mindset where you have the upper class, the upper heads who are going to run things, and you have other people who are going to work for them. And so this is, as I said, the problem here with this thing, with this little girl, is not the court's decision. It's the fact that that law existed to begin with. And the place where that law comes from is from a classist, colonialized mindset. People have to remember, as we mentioned, tomorrow is Jamaica's Independence Day. Jamaica was under British rule till 1962. So there's all sorts of people who are in control and power in Jamaica today who have a mindset
still
of, before the black, green, and gold flag, right? They have a mindset of the Union Jack, the British flag. They kind of lived under that system. They started going to school under that system. And it's under that system where, Rastafari, who they were, fighting oppression, fighting against the Babylon system of imperialism and what have you. So they were trying to, brush them aside. So anything associated with Rasta. And again, this was, for like when I left Jamaica in early 80s. So that mindset still existed. I mentioned the other day that I had an uncle who recently passed, who was a Rasta. I'm not just somebody at Locks, he was a Rastafarian. And when he died a couple weeks ago, and I got a picture of him, that's the first I have ever seen him, ever in life. Because I would just hear about, you have a Rasta uncle. And coming from a relatively conservative rural area, I'm sure he went through all kinds of fights where he was not welcome. So he, moved to Kingston and, then some Rasta community there. And I heard of my uncle Manir, but I never saw him. So people have to understand that this fight it goes way beyond, this little girl's education. It is a mindset within Jamaica and the people who run Jamaica, that you have to look a certain way, you have to have a certain complexion, your hair have to be a certain way, if you want to be accepted within our society. So firebun that Babylon system. You know, that's my thing.
And this is all against a religion that teaches spirituality, discipline, and a healthy lifestyle. Come on now.
You know what? I'm glad you said that, because when you think about it, what they call, you know, organic and, you know, all that stuff, Rasta's been on this. Rasta's been on living a certain way and you know, eating what you grow and not putting certain things on it, and you know, healthy living. I mean, look, you know, we're all Christians here, but I you know, I admire a lot about Rastafari, and I read a lot about Rastafari. Just understanding the way that they live. There's something for I've heard about all kinds of healing for all sorts of different things. You know, that Rastas have been on this for a long time. You know, there's healing just in the natural herbs.
Yeah, they basically think that for every ailment, there's a plant or a root or something out there that can cure it, fix it, or may have you. They live off the land.
Yeah, I 100% believe that. I don't believe that there is an ailment. I believe the cure for corona is probably in something in your backyard somewhere.
Probably ginger beer or something.
You know what I mean?
You know, just some Guinness or something. You know, we ain't.
So you know, so Rasta, you know, it's about a way of living and a way of, you know, thinking and a way of being. It's a spiritual thing. You know, it's not really, you know, about that, you know, denomination and you know, religious order and that sort of thing. It's living a certain way. And again, when you think of the environment in which, you know, Rasta actually started earlier than I realized. It was in the 1930s. That movement started, so fully under British control at that time. And you think of the fight that Rastas had to go through during those days, and that mindset, it persists throughout Jamaica, you know what I mean, and throughout the world. And you know, black people getting all kinds of fight just for the way that their hair naturally grows. Like I get fight all the time for the way that my hair naturally grows.
And you should. That big ass head.
Hey, we gonna edit that out.